I also faced a very interesting situation a couple of weeks ago. I spoke to the team of metadata management professionals who started metadata management program and invented a metadata management strategy. But when I asked them, who are your business users, business stakeholders, they answered me, we don't know. This is an interesting question. So let's make it very simple. We are in position of this middle management. Tomorrow we need to go to top management of our company. How are we going to convince them they need, or company needs, or business needs metadata management? Of course, we can think about data integration, improving data processing and DevOps by reducing redundant data and so on. But I really would like to hear your opinions, because we are always on other side. We know company must have it. But what would happen if you're on another side? So, Sue, what do you think about it? Dr. Sue, what do you think about it?
You asking me or Susan?
Yeah. You know, I took a look at Susan.
I'm smiling to myself because in my nearly 30 years of experience, I think I have myself shifted my conversation from technical to structural to actually the business side of it. At the end of the day, you shouldn't need to convince anybody about the value of what metadata management is, right? Unless you are very highly budget and resource constrained. So the value itself speaks for itself. And if we haven't done that, then we haven't translated that well across the board, which brings it back to Susan's point, which is, are you bringing the people along? Now, I want to just distinguish between two customers. There are actually two customers in this conversation. Your internal customers, your internal stakeholders, from the C-level all the way to your analysts. And then you have your external customers that Kaycee talked about, right? That get to, listen, I'm investing $10 million with you, Kaycee. Show me the value of what I've invested in. And I can't wait for a year. I need it here and now, right? That is the conversation with C-level folks. So you have to kind of create that balance between the business outcome, of which metadata management is one aspect of it, by the way. It is not the end-all and be-all of everything, right? But it helps you, it enables you to get to that business outcome. The biggest paucity that I see in many different industries across many different geographies is the ability to actually say, by doing this, I'm going to help you and enable you connect to your business outcome. That is a far cry and a far call. And if you're going to stand by it, you better have proof and ability to show that, evidence to show that. So that's one. The second thing is around, again, who are the users internally? Who are going to be the users externally? I think someone here beautifully said it. Maybe it was Luke, maybe it was someone else who said it. Listen, you need to, small is good, right? So you have to also think about what the six of us know is not frankly what a C-level or a VP is going to care. What do you care? Then what does middle management care? And what is that different layer? Based on that, now you can have a conversation and what I call translation of what aspects of metadata management where you can get their input, embed it, and still get to the product and the data cataloging and the data lineage and all of that fun stuff, right? So again, for me, those are the key things. It's the marriage between business, technical, your administrative, your structural, and making sure it's a fine balance that at least enables you to get to that business outcome, showing that value. Very concretely.
And now, Susan, thank you very much.
I feel like I've talked a bit. But do you want to hear what some of the guys say? But really quickly, because I come from a different space. There's one thing that you might not have thought of that's really important, and it's things like preventing fraud within an organization. And it could be financial, or it could be if you have a warehouse, are things just walking out the door because they're not being tracked properly, or the metadata is wrong, and so and it's going to a false customer. So that's the kind of language and kind of things that the business want to hear, that will prick their ears up and maybe get some attention.
Okay, thank you very much, Ivaylo. What are your opinions about that?
It's an interesting topic that we touched a lot of the obvious aspects, I guess. Irina, you mentioned data redundancy, overcoming that, and data integration. And these are the probably obvious use cases where we need to work with metadata. Overcoming silo data is the great challenge nowadays that I think every big enterprise is having. And if we need to convince anybody that they need to be working with data, with quality data, and thus handling metadata well, I think it's long overdue, because I think pretty much everyone nowadays in the information age acknowledges that data is really the lifeblood of the modern business world and of decision making. And these might be some obvious use cases and reasons to drive metadata work, but there might be some not so obvious that come and hit us right away with a big force. And that one such driver and aspect can be compliance and data governance, because with stricter privacy regulations that are coming more and more, like GDPR and CCPA, a lot of organizations really need to enforce metadata management to understand data landscape and adhere to these regulations. So data governance and compliance constitute really one of those principal business drivers for metadata management. And this is a crucial thing that we usually overlook until it hits us. And of course, another thing that I want to point out, because metadata might be perceived as a kind of a boring thing, but really it can be the foundation for decision making and business intelligence, because really you cannot make an informed decision without relying on ability to accurately interpret and analyze data nowadays. And really, metadata holds the key to this by providing context, quite often a lot of clarity for proper comprehension.
Okay, thank you. And just now, I would like to ask Luke and Kaycee, after all, how are you convinced your customers' management? Yeah. What are your arguments?
That's our daily job.
Yeah, let's share. Please share with us.
I spend my life in convincing C-levels to invest in a data catalog, which is a metadata management platform, obviously. And the way we do it very successfully is the following. We push for a bottom-up approach rather than a top-down, which is we take one use case, whatever it is. It can be predictive maintenance, it can be compliance like BCBS 239, or it can be operational efficiency improvement, analytics, whatever the use case is. And we work in 3 to 6 week cycles where we will take just enough data and just enough metadata around it to cover this particular use case from A to Z, and prove to the C-level that there is value around that. Once you've done that, and it's a pretty quick cycle, it's between 3 and 6 weeks, then you enhance the reach of your metadata discipline by adding another use case, adding other data sources or other personas, but you do it step by step. And we promote that. We call it start small and scale fast. And the result is that we started working with corporates where they had maybe 20 people, and they ended up with 1,000 people now with 400 data stewards, just because we have done that step by step, rather than thinking of the ideal metadata classifications up front for the next 5 years. It doesn't work. Bottom-up, agile, incremental metadata management discipline is, in my opinion, what works very well.
Okay. Kaycee, and your experience, it will be great if you can share with us.
Yeah, I have a little bit of a different and maybe controversial take. I actually think a lot of vendors or a lot of folks are actually pretty good at selling why they need metadata management. And that the reason why is it's just like selling any data management solution, and you always have to couch it right within the context of a broader business use case, right? And I think if you can do that, i.e. digital transformation, data governance, compliance, et cetera, for the most part, right, if it aligns with a important corporate initiative, it gets approved. I think for the most part, that's I like to say I think most vendors have done a decent job figuring that out. There's a lot of literature from the big SIs and so forth. I think the harder part comes after. What happens after you've sold the solution and it gets bought? And the reason I say that is I think a lot of customers I talk to and I say their idea of what the metadata solution was going to do versus what they actually got usually ends up being very different. And what I mean by that is the value that they thought they were going to get, the speed in which they thought they were going to get that value, the ease, the lack, or the without the not requiring so many resources to maintain the metadata management. I think a lot of times those get misaligned. So I think that actually ends up being a bigger challenge, in my opinion. You get a lot of customers now complaining about, we've implemented this metadata solution, this catalog. We thought it was going to do X, it hasn't. We thought 1,000 people were going to use it, only 4 people use it. So these are just some of the things that I found to be sort of what, let the air out of the balloon a little bit in terms of just the disappointment people might have. And so I would say that's probably the area that we should probably do a better job educating, right? Our team educating customers in terms of how to get that value once you actually get past the purchase.
I'd agree. I see a lot of smoke and mirrors, and I think that's why people don't see the value anymore, because they've been promised the world and been delivered about that much of it.
Yeah, maybe it's a nice time for me to share my experience, because I started my metadata management path or journey almost 7 years ago with implementing technical data lineage. Nobody knew what it meant. And I spent 4 months on talking to business people, gathering requirements, understanding, and it looked like that it was good enough. The challenge was that at some point they told me, I have no understanding what you're talking about, so take responsibility to define our requirements, and then we are going to implement it. Data lineage, we implemented data lineage in 1 year period. But then we faced a challenge because nobody still understood what data lineage meant. Nobody wanted to use it. And it cost me almost 2 years coming back to business people and talking to them, what do you need data lineage? And the funniest stuff was when I worked with business people, it happened they didn't need metadata lineage. They simply needed data lineage. They had to know what happened on data level, not on metadata level. It was even a very funny situation when I explained a lot what metadata lineage was, and then I came back to the same term, data lineage. They asked me, but maybe it's data lineage still exists, It's very funny how we professionals use some terms or without even thinking what we mean by that.